Before I get started, or before you start watching the rest of the video, as I was looking at the video that I just recorded, I did just do one take, which all my videos are one take. I just wanted to make sure that it's clear that I do not blame my mother at all for the way I speak English or my own laziness for how I speak, if I'm using filler words and all that kind of stuff. In fact, I revere my mother a lot for doing an amazing job. Um, she did a lot with what she had, and we've greatly exceeded expectations for what was expected for us in Canada. Me and my siblings were probably not expected to even go to post-secondary school, let alone me now pursuing a degree in medicine. So I have nothing but respect for my mother. I was just trying to give an explanation for how I speak the way I speak. So take that for what it is. But my mother is an excellent woman. She's extremely brilliant. Her not speaking perfect English means nothing in terms of how smart and wonderful she is. Okay, now you can watch my video. Hi guys, welcome to another quick chit chat with RN Tracy 2 MD. And to get started, I'm just going to show you a quick clip and then I'll get back and we can talk about it. So I guess this is kind of like a reaction video. So I'll cut to the clip and let's get started.
It was so unbalanced because I realized that the vast majority of people who were criticizing me hadn't watched the video. Or if they did, they watched it in some sort of honestly impressive way where they were only perceiving it in 30-second chunks. And I noticed this sort of 30-second approach to information getting worse and worse. And it was not just in my video.
All right, so welcome back. And I hope you like that clip. It's from a YouTuber that I used to watch a bit more. And then I did notice that he had gone offline, but I didn't think about why he had gone offline. And so that YouTuber's name is Angelo. And so I wanted to talk about some of the things that he talked about in his video. And then I also wanted to talk about something that has been related to that's kind of been bothering me. And it's something that I've struggled with for a long time. And so, yeah, let's get into it. And so the first thing that I wanted to talk about is how I came across D'Angelo's videos. And so, of course, on YouTube, you're just kind of randomly scrolling and then something gets recommended to you. So I often like to watch reaction videos and stuff like that. And so I'm assuming that's how he got suggested to me. And when I first heard him, I just want to adjust my light quickly because it's doing a weird thing. When I first came across his YouTube videos, the thing that made me stay is how he spoke. So I wasn't necessarily intrigued by what he was speaking about at first, but it was how he spoke that made me stay and watch his videos. And it's nothing offensive or anything like that. It's because I myself struggle to speak that when he first spoke, I noticed that there was something different about his speech. And so that was intriguing to me. And I thought that was kind of interesting that even though it seemed like there was something different about how he spoke, it didn't seem to be anything that was bothersome to him. He just spoke as he spoke. And eventually I didn't even really notice that the thing that I'm referring to. I won't name it just because I don't know if there even is a thing. But I just know that I speak a little bit differently sometimes, and there's various issues with how I speak. And so this was a reason that I stayed and watched his videos. And his videos are actually really good quality. So I would give his videos a look. I don't know if all his old videos are still there, but he used to talk about some interesting stuff. And this video was also interesting. And so that's just to get started, talking about how he speaks and how that relates to me. And so, as you know, I've been making videos. It's a recent thing that I started doing. And in that, of course, when I watch myself back, I notice a lot of my own quirks, but there's a lot of quirks that I don't even pick up on. And I think it made me a little bit sad when I came and I saw a comment and somebody had said, like they didn't, and I'm doing it again. So if that person is watching, hopefully, probably not hopefully, but probably not. I believe that maybe it was something that maybe got into their recommendation somehow, but they weren't happy with the fact that I said like so much. And watching back on my videos, it's funny because before that person made the comment, I did notice that I said like, but it's almost as though it wasn't my main concern. In fact, my main concern was my use of the word actually. And so now I've been trying to cut back on both, which makes it even more difficult for me to speak because I'm very self-conscious now of how I'm speaking. But this is an ongoing issue. It's not something that's new. It's just that I'm sure people over the years who know me in person are so used to how I speak that nobody decided to correct me on these things. And so I wanted to give a little bit of context to why I speak the way I speak. And if you pick up on some quirks or if you hear the way I speak itself, sometimes I have a bit of a slur. I'll get into all of the different ways that I speak that might be weird to somebody's ear. So to get started, I am the child of immigrant parents, and which is the case for most people who live in Canada. And so I'm Ghanaian. I guess you'd be considering me second generation just because I was born here, but my mother came here after, or was born elsewhere and then came here. And so growing up, although I primarily spoke English, it wasn't the first thing that I learned. And I think this is even more true for my sibling who is older than me. When we were first or the first thing that we were learning as we were growing up would have been Tree. And so that is the native language of the Akan people in Ghana. And I'm from the Ashanti tribe. And so most people from there will be speaking Tree primarily. So even though we were growing up in Canada, whenever we would be coming home, especially if we were before primary school, my mother would primarily be speaking to us in Tree. So even if we were responding in English, she was speaking to us in Tree. And so the English that I was learning was from her. So it was a very basic English or a bit of a broken English. And so when we started going to elementary school, I believe it was recommended to her that she no longer teach us Tree. But even though she wasn't teaching us Tree, we were still learning English from somebody whose primary language was not English. And so, uh, not to say that, somebody who's learning English as their second language wouldn't be able to speak English perfectly. In fact, I think if you're learning it as your second language and you're learning it older, you might have better grammar and syntax than somebody who is a first generation child who learns it from their parents who speak it as a second language. So that's a bit about like how I learned English. And so again, even though this is not supposed to be some kind of excuse, even though I was primarily learning English in school, when I came home, that wasn't the primary language that I was hearing. And so I'm sure there's core moments in my life when um, that might have been an issue in terms of like long-term grammar, long-term syntax. Of course, I've been able to like correct over the years because of maybe somebody would correct something that I was saying. For instance, I remember for a long time I would say something like axe and I didn't think about it and I thought that anybody who corrected you was just being like a stickler, or there would just be different ways that I would say things, and over the years somebody would correct me and I thought they were just being like, I don't know, super nitpicky or just like teasing me, but I didn't realize that these were like actual issues with my grammar. Yeah, there's other things that are causing me maybe to speak the way that I speak. And something that really bothers me in terms of how people speak about the Canadian accent, maybe, is it bothers me when people say something like our accent sounds funny, or what is it that people say? We sound corny. That really bothers me just because I don't know if people recognize the xenophobia in that. Of course, I know that some people will add in a bit of extra or will put on a little bit more. So, like in terms of like our Toronto slang specifically, sometimes people will add in some more than they would naturally be speaking. But some people naturally speak in with this twang that might be like that might be specific to Toronto or Ontario. there is maybe something that you might hear if you're from outside of Ontario. And that is something that is naturally happening to people who are growing up as first generation children or second generation children with various accents around them. And so, even myself growing up, my mother was Ghanaian. She spoke Tree. She used to do hair and she had a lot of Jamaican customers. And then my babysitter was a Latin American woman who was speaking mostly Spanish. I don't even know if she spoke to us in English. And so growing up, I was hearing so many different accents and my ears had to adjust to those accents. But I could also see how growing up, people would start to mix the accents together in how they were speaking. Because again, yes, they were learning English at school, but they're coming home and hearing these accents at home or hearing these different languages at home. And I don't just mean Black or African students, I'm everybody. So, whatever your race was, if English was not the primary language that you're hearing at home, it's likely that the way you were speaking English, there was going to be some syntax or grammatical errors that nobody might have corrected you on because we all understood each other. So there was no reason to correct each other. So sorry about being long-winded. That is another issue, but this is one thing that I just wanted to address. Yeah, so another thing I wanted to address is the slight slur that you might hear. So sometimes when I'm saying like multiple things that have an S or something like that, it's not that I have I don't know if it would be called a lisp. If anybody listening to this is a speech language pathologist and wants to give any kind of diagnosis, go ahead. I'm not necessarily going to seek out any kind of help for this, just because even though I have these issues, that might be something that's an issue in my videos for somebody listening. It's not anything that impedes my ability to give care to patients. It's not anything that has impeded me throughout my life. Granted, it was really difficult when I had to practice to do interviews for med school. And people did point out some of these quirks or my filler words. But otherwise, it's nothing that stops me from living my life to the fullest. But feel free to give any kind of diagnosis you'd like here. But I do have a bit of a slur, and I think that has more to do with the shape of my mouth. Just because growing up, I used to suck on my tongue, which caused my teeth to protrude out. Like I had a huge overbite. And currently, after my teeth were corrected, I have I don't know if somebody's like, ew, don't show me your mouth. I have top and bottom permanent retainers. So sometimes I could actually feel that my tongue wants to like hit a little further and it just can't because the shape of my mouth has been changed. And over time, I have been comfortable changing how I speak, but there are just some words that sometimes I'll slur and then it'll take me a bit longer to say something because I'm trying not to have that slur happen. But it is what it is. I'm so sorry again if this is something that bothers your ear. Sorry. And then in terms of my use of filler words, so for the most part, when I'm doing my videos in terms of my chit chats, I just want them to be very casual. I don't mean for them to be formal. I understand that I'm somebody who's in medical school, but anytime I'll have any kind of instructional video, something that is specific to give instruction to medical students or people looking to get into medical school, I will try my best to use less filler words and be more succinct in my speech. But if I'm doing something that is meant to be laid back, I want to make sure that I'm saying things, very casually. And so sometimes there will be filler words, although I will try to be more mindful of that. And I'll just talk about that in just a moment. But I will try to be more mindful about that. So the use of the filler words, I think that anybody who's using filler words, it's usually just maybe a lack of vocabulary, or sometimes for me, it's me trying to think, and I think I'm just filling in the words as I'm thinking. Maybe I'm thinking a bit slower. Sometimes it can be nerves. I would say that in my interviews, it was nerves. And although I addressed the person who made this comment and said it was nerves for the other video, I know that that's not the truth, and I don't want to start my channel with any kind of lies just to make myself or somebody else feel better. I wasn't nervous. This is just how I speak if I'm speaking casually. I just don't necessarily notice these quirks, even when I'm looking at my videos, because I don't think of them as a thing. So now that somebody has pointed it out, I always hear it and I'm like, okay, I will try to filter it out a bit more. And then even when I'm editing my videos, I'll try to cut it out if it's possible for me to cut out the multiple filler words. But yeah, that is why I speak the way I speak. And then getting back to D'Angelo's video, so I didn't want to just talk about his videos just because of how he speaks, but also the context of his video was really important and relates to me as well. So in his video, he was talking about being canceled for not something that he said, but maybe something he didn't say. And it was because of just one clip of, or one piece of his video. And that was shocking to me because I did again notice that he had gone missing, but I didn't think of it as anything. I know people take time off the internet for various reasons. So when he came back and he said it was for that reason, I was shocked and really sad for him just because I had watched some of his other videos. And even if you've watched more than one of his videos, you would not come to the internet and say the hurtful things that people were saying about him. But I know that the internet, like there's so many people in there, but we have really become a soundbite culture, and it really sucks. Just because, and he mentioned it. He mentioned a huge problem being TikTok, and another part of the thing that somebody left in the comment was, "Can you get to your point faster?" Which I will say, I'm a long-winded person. So when you come to my videos, that's something that you can kind of expect. I'm not looking to change the way I speak at this time in terms of length. Um, but yeah, he was mentioning that with TikTok and people consuming videos in 1 minute, like in 1 minute, even sometimes like 30 seconds, people are clipping to the next thing. People are now fixed on sound bites and looking to get outrage on sound bites, and then looking to get outrage from the commentary that somebody else makes on that sound bite without even having listened to the context of that video. If you watched even one more video that he had done, you would get the vibe from him and understand that his intention would never be to do the things that people were accusing him of. And so I found that really sad. And the reason that I'm addressing that is because I'm a new YouTuber and I don't want to start modifying the way I do videos in terms of making them quicker or getting to the point quicker, just to appease people who are now accustomed to sound bites. I think the sound bites is the problem, not the people speaking for a long time. I don't think that we should be adjusting to create sound bites for people to listen to quickly. I think people need to slow down a little bit. I think there's this thing that people used to say, it's not that I'm talking too fast, it's that you're listening too slow. I think we've now flipped that. And in 2026, we are now in 2026, people are looking to listen as fast as they can. And I don't know why. I'm not sure what people are in a rush to do, but people are listening to get information within what, 30 seconds. If my clip is 3 minutes and eventually I got to the point in 3 minutes, I'm not really sure how much faster you'd like me to get to the point. Of course, granted, I know that you can get to the point quicker and you can speak faster, but what is the rush? If something is 3 minutes, I can understand if it was longer than 3 minutes, it's upsetting you that it's taking so long. But if something is 3 minutes, I have to question, why were you coming to the video or why were you listening to the video in the first place? If it's to get something really quick, there's so many other ways to get that information. You know, you can go to ChatGPT, you can go and find another YouTuber who speaks maybe quickly to not give you any context, sure, but I'm not looking to quickly give people information in some kind of robotic way that kind of gets rid of every part of me. I want to give people context. I want to give people some of my experience. And sometimes if I'm going to be sharing my experience, it's not going to be me getting to the point quickly. Sometimes part of me getting to the point is me sharing the story. So if that is not for you, then I may not be the YouTuber for you. So yeah, the reason I often speak slowly is because I'm trying to actually think about what I'm speaking to you about. It's not that that I'm just slow. It could be that I'm also slower than you're used to. But I do try to think about the things that I say before I say them. And so sometimes that might take me a little bit longer. Again, it's not even necessarily that I haven't thought about these things before I'm doing the video. Sometimes I have, but as the words are coming out, I'm trying to be very cautious of how I'm saying it and what I'm saying. So these are all the reasons that I speak the way I speak, and some of the reasons why I may not be changing the way I speak anytime soon. So again, if I'm not for you, I'm sorry, but I don't plan on changing it. If the way I speak is getting in the way of me reaching out to the audience that I hope to reach, then I will, change it, because again, I don't want to create any kind of barriers, not just between me and my patients, but also anybody who's listening to this or who I hope to help, anything like that. I don't want the way I speak to be an issue for them. But if the way I speak is bothersome to you, but the video is not necessarily for you, you're welcome to listen, but the video might not be for you. So thank you so much for listening to maybe what may be a long-winded talk or long-winded commentary on D'Angelo's video. But yeah, that is just to address some of the issues around how I speak. I hope that I do get better with time, not to posture or to appease people who would like sound bites, but to better communicate with the people that I hope to communicate with. If you enjoyed my video, please look for my other videos on my YouTube channel, RNTracy2MD. I do have other chit chat videos, and I have videos where I'm providing tips for getting into med school. And hopefully I'll make a couple videos for people in med school. I really want to do an ECG video, but this might be the last one for a while, just because school is about to start back up and I was procrastinating while I was making these videos. So now I have to actually walk in and start studying what I need to study for school itself. So I hope you had a great holiday. If you got a holiday, if you didn't, I just hope that this year goes well for you, and all the best. So see you next time. Bye.